Hello team, it's me Jamie. Welcome to my September wrap up. I want to talk about all the books that I read in September. I read 17. That is ridiculous to me. Like, I feel like I read nothing and then all of a sudden I read everything. I don't know how that happened, but this is gonna be a long video, so we're just gonna get straight into my September wrap up and everything that I read. Okay, we're gonna go in chronological order. So the first book that I read was They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. This is a thriller novel told from two different perspectives, from a college professor called Dr. Scarlett Clark, and then also from a freshman at the university called Carly. I read this in my reading vlog that I did when I kind of like came back to YouTube, like my first reading vlog, and oh my god, this is 17 books ago. This is actually kind of crazy. Like, I can't actually remember a lot, but I remember really thoroughly enjoying it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, I believe. Basically, our college professor, she does something every year where she likes to enact revenge on these awful men that have done like just awful things around the college campus. So men who may have like abused their girlfriends or date raped someone, she goes and murders them to like get revenge and like basically just rid the world of disgusting men. And then Carly, she wraps into the story. You will see how she wraps into the story. Like, you guys, I just think, really read this book. I don't know, if you like books like Fowler's Fair or The Female of the Species, this is kind of just like the adult version of those books, while I do think those YA books are very mature. It's, yeah, badass woman. There's also a sapphic love story in this novel as well. I highly recommend this, and I wish I could say more about it, but I do have a reading vlog on it, so I would recommend checking that out if you want to hear more. But if you don't, I just say go read it. Literally go read it. The next book was a book I read on my Kindle, and that is Addicted After All by Krista and Becca Ritchie. This is the final book in the Addicted series, but there are still more books in the Calloway Sisters series. So while I read this, I didn't really feel a sense of like goodbye or finality to these characters, because I know that I have like 3 more books in this companion series where I'm going to see what happens to these characters. But I rated this 4 out of 5 stars. It was really, really good. It's really long. It is really long. I'm not going to tell you too much about it because it is the last book in a series, but it is a romance series following our main 2 characters, Lily and Lo. Lily is a sex addict and Lo is an alcoholic, and throughout the series we just see them in recovery and their love story. Like, there's 5 books in the series, so you really see them go through so many different huge life-altering events, and I really recommend the series as a whole. Like, this is my favorite romance series, I think. It is just so good, so fleshed out, and you just see the characters throughout so many years and you really get to know them, and you kind of become part of their like little exclusive family. So I really highly recommend this, especially if you love TV shows like Gossip Girl and stuff, where it's like kind of following rich socialites, like rich people problems, but their problems are actually like quite serious. I just really like it. I really recommend the series. Next, I read You and Me on Vacation by Emily Henry, also known as People We Meet on Vacation. This book, what a pleasant surprise. I was not expecting to like this book as much as I did. This was a 4 out of 5 star read for me. I didn't actually love Beach Read by Emily Henry, so that's why I was so surprised, but I went into this like just, you know, with an open mind, and I'm so glad that I did. I really enjoyed this. Our 2 main characters, Poppy and Alex, genuinely such a good romance hero and heroine, like, and also Friends to Lovers done so well. Basically, this story takes place over like 11 years, and our 2 main characters, every single year they like take a vacation together, and then something happens which means they stop being friends for 2 years. And so, trying to like repair their friendship, they decide to go on like another vacation, because our main character Poppy, she's really keen on fixing the friendship. Like, she's really missed it, and it was just so beautifully told. Like, I genuinely think, even though I found Beach Read boring, I genuinely think Emily Henry is such a good writer, and I'm very excited to read Book Lovers, which I have on my Kindle. I just thought it was so good. It wasn't too heavy-handed. Poppy was just a ball of sunshine, and Alex was like the studious teacher. Honestly, I really thought this was very well done. Pacing, excellent. Some lines in here that were just like really heartbreaking. Like, there was this one line, it was the first one that I tabbed like this far into the book, and I was like, wait, this is a quotable book. And oh my god, it's possible that all those little moments that meant so much to me never meant quite the same thing to him. It's possible that he didn't reach out to me for 2 full years, because when we stopped speaking, he didn't lose something precious the way that I did. Poppy is a woman after my own heart. I love her so much. I relate to her, dare I say it. Like, she's a very sentimental person, and I feel like I am the same. I'm very nostalgic. I'm very sentimental. I romanticize everything from my past, even the things that I shouldn't. And oh my god, it's just a very good book. So if you are looking for a romance, if you do want to get into like the popular booktok romances, dare I say, I definitely think start with that one. Going down a completely different avenue, I read Boy Parts by Eliza Clark. What a journey this took me on. I rated it 5 out of 5 stars, but it's genuinely one of the most disturbing books I have ever read in my life. Like, unhinged woman to the highest degree, like so crazy. Basically, we follow our main character Irina. She is a professional photographer and she likes to take quite lewd, quite exposing and like kind of filthy but artistically filthy photographs of like average looking men in really compromising positions. And so basically we just are in her head the whole time. She's a very angry woman. She's a very angry woman. She's a very unreliable narrator. She's cruel. She's a narcissist. She's, dare I say, evil. Like, she's evil. But we're like inside her head, and it was so good. Like, genuinely the writing is so witty and so funny. The pop culture it references was so appropriate. Like, it just really fit the vibe of like a woman, a modern woman living in the 21st century. So good. I've read American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis, and I hate that book so much because that book is essentially just a white man writing about all the ways to like torture women. This is kind of like the opposite. Like, it's like the female version of that, if you will. And so it was incredibly disturbing, but I couldn't put it down. I needed to put it down at some stage though, because I feel like the anger that our main character was feeling, I feel like I really took that on and I started like picking fights with people. It's probably not a good thing, but it was, as like a piece of literature, so good, and I highly recommend it. Next, I read The Arrangement by Robin Harding. This is a thriller. I read it on Kindle Unlimited. I rated it 1 star. It was terrible. I talked about this a lot in a reading vlog as well as the other books that I had previously mentioned, but this was really bad, and I really don't want to spend too much time on it. Basically, it's about this woman from New York. She's an art student. She's really low on money, so she decides to get a sugar daddy, and like she finds this one man called Gabriel. They start up this some sort of arrangement, and then she falls in love with him. Like, she believes that he's in love with her as well, and then things just get a little bit psychotic from there. I feel like there was just lots of little prejudices against women who work in the sex industry in this novel, which really didn't sit right with me, given that it's about like the sugar baby experience. I feel like our author had a voice that was slightly biased against women who put themselves in the sugar bowl and participate in that sort of activity. And I feel like if you're writing a main character who is a sugar baby, you really shouldn't have those sorts of prejudices, and it just really didn't feel like all that appropriate. I've also read another novel by this author where it also had just kind of like shitty little remarks to say about like young teenage girls, and because of that, that's what makes me feel like it's the author's voice. Like, it's not like her just putting in characters who are prejudiced against sugar babies. I feel like it's actually her who is just slightly prejudiced against women who like own their sexuality. So yeah, this was a 1-star read for me. I really like, don't even read it for fun. Like, don't even read it to laugh at it. Just like, don't read it. It was just really bad. Then I read To Love Jason Thorne by Ella Mays. This is a romance novel. I read this on my Kindle, and then I like had to buy it because it was so fun. There's also a sequel which I wanted to read as well, but was like so expensive on Kindle, so I was like, I'm buying the physical copies. I believe I rated this 4 out of 5 stars. It definitely like wasn't perfect. Like, the pacing was a bit off at times, but so good for like a little rom-com. It's also got like so many tropes in it. Like, it was childhood friends to strangers to lovers, fake dating, famous love interest with a non-famous main character, like everything. Basically, we follow our main character Olive. Ever since she was young, she fell in love with the boy who lives next door to her, who was her brother's best friend. She was like so obsessed with him, and then as an adult, he like drifts apart from the family. He becomes a famous movie star, and she becomes an author. Then one of her books is being adapted to screen, and Jason Thorne, our main guy, her like childhood love, is starring as the main character in it. It was so good. It was genuinely so great, and like I believed their chemistry so much. They also decide that they have to like fake date, because I think a paparazzi takes a photo of them together, and then everyone's like, oh my god, like they're so in love with each other, and then they have to like fake date for the movie and everything. It was just so good. It was quite a long one, but it was great. I would say the beginning was kind of slow. Like, they didn't actually start the fake dating until like 50% in, I would say. And usually if you're doing a fake dating romance, it's like, I want it to happen like 20% in. Like, give me the fake dating, give me all of it. But I thought this was still really well done. Not perfect, but such a good rom-com to pick up, like if you're just feeling a bit slumpy, if you just want some fluffiness in your life. really recommend this one. Then I read Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. This is a 5 out of 5 star romance for me. This is like, if I had to describe my taste in romances, like my ideal romance, it would be this. Slow burn, like a big chunky book. It's like over 500 pages, slow burn, small town romance, enemies to lovers, a whole lot of family drama going on outside of that, well fleshed out characters, grumpy sunshine, like literally so good. It really was reminiscent of All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata. It genuinely felt like I was reading a Mariana Zapata book, but this was just fantastic. I am so glad I read this book, and I am going to read so much more of Lucy Score. I feel like she's going to be a new like big time author for me. Basically, we follow our main character Naomi. She is a runaway bride. She's running away from her wedding. She ends up in this small town where her evil twin sister lives, and then her evil twin sister like screws her over, steals her car, and leaves her with an 11-year-old niece who Naomi now has to look after. And then she also has this really awful first encounter with this guy Knox, who is like the town millionaire but like super humble about it, and like he likes to help everyone out a lot in the town. They start trying to like raise this kid together. She's starting a new life like in this small town. They're like enemies, but they're so attracted to each other. I genuinely believed their obsession. Like they were so obsessed, so in love, so attracted to each other, and it just jumped off the page. Also dual perspective, which I really love in a romance. And I think if you are looking for like a romance that's not necessarily a rom-com, it's got like a lot more going for it in terms of like the characters and the side plot and all that sort of stuff. Genuinely, this is so good. So please read that. Okay, now we're getting into the books that I read for my 24-hour reading challenge. So I'll do these ones kind of quickly because I feel like I talked about them a lot in my vlog. But the first one that I read for that was Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was another 5 out of 5 star read for me. Genuinely taken by surprise. It was so good. I'm so gutted that people don't talk about this as much as they talk about like Evelyn Hugo and Daisy Jones, because I feel like this is just as good as those two novels, except we're not following like one main character, we're following a whole family. There is so much generational trauma going on here. There are so many crazy family dynamics. I won't tell you the plot, but I just feel like you need to go in kind of blind. But just know the surfer vibes of Malibu, fantastic. This is like a love letter to family, but like not just the good parts of a big family, also the awful parts, the dysfunctional parts, the messy, ugly parts that come with it. This felt like a love letter to that and honored like that family isn't always perfect. I just loved this. What is it about rich people problem books? I don't know, but I love them, and this was no exception. I really highly recommend this if you haven't read it yet, but I feel like a lot of people have. But why don't you guys recommend it more, because it's fantastic. Then I read Rock Paper Scissors by Alice Feeney. I believe I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. This was a pretty good but stock standard thriller, like really exciting. The plot twist definitely got me, which I wasn't expecting, and it was just really fun. Basically we follow like this married couple. The husband has face blindness, so when he sees people's faces, it's just like a blur of colors. Like it's not even like he sees a face and can like recognize people. They're trying to fix their marriage by going away on this like, I don't know, couples retreat to this really weird, awful like chapel, and then all this like weird shit starts happening. There's another woman there on the property who was like messing with them, and we just learned so much about their like history together, and it was just like good and fun. Like I feel like definitely not 100% the best thriller I've ever read, but like definitely read it really fast, and if you're new to thrillers, I feel like you'd really love this. So if you're wanting to get into the genre, I think pick this up. Then I read You Had Me Ola by Alexis Daria. This was another 3-star romance. This follows our 2 main characters who are starring as like love interests in a telenovela. They have a really awkward like first encounter with each other, and then they just kind of like, yeah, their attraction to each other ensues from there. I will say the positive thing about this book is that very well researched when it comes to like being on a TV set or a film set. I feel like it was very accurate. If you are new here, I am an actor in New Zealand. I have been in a few like TV shows here, and so reading about the stuff that they were like doing on set, I was like, yeah, that actually literally happens. However, I feel like the characters didn't really have that much chemistry, and they didn't really have that much flirty banter, which is something that I really like in my romances. I feel like they were both just really awkward around each other, so I didn't buy their, like, I believe that they thought each other was like hot, but I didn't really believe that like their love, if that makes sense. But yeah, it was still like fun and a good romance to like kill time, but it's not gonna be something that I like write home about for the rest of my life. Then I read Exciting Times by Nosha Dolan. I don't even really want to talk about this. This is 1 star. This was just a whole lot of nothing. Like, it just really felt like there was no plot whatsoever. I talked about this extensively in that video, and I don't really want to repeat myself. Sorry, my camera ran out of memory while I was filming. So what was I even saying? I was talking about this, right? If you don't like Sally Rooney, then you won't like this. I do like Sally Rooney to a point. Like, I'm not like a die-hard stan like some other people are. I have enjoyed her novels. This was like, yeah, just a whole lot of nothing. And also it was like randomly set in Hong Kong, but there was like 1 adult main character who was Asian that had a speaking role. And so I don't really know why it was set in Hong Kong. It felt really, it didn't sit right with me. It didn't sit right with me. Yeah, and then like nothing happened, and our main character was like so unaware of her own privilege. I don't know if that was on purpose, but if it was, like, I don't want to read about it. Like, it was dumb. Yeah, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Anyway, I don't even remember it. It was so boring. It was, sorry, really boring. Then I read Fuel the Fire by Kristen and Becca Ritchie. This is the 3rd to last book in the Calloway Sisters series, but it is the 2nd book where we follow our main characters, Rose and Connor. I'm obsessed with them. Like, they are so intellectual. Their witty banter with each other, they are ridiculous. Like, they're ridiculous. They have like sexually charged games of chess. They speak to each other in French when they don't want anyone else to like hear them. They like know all these different languages. They're so ridiculously smart and like poised, well put together. They remind me of like Blair and Chuck from Gossip Girl, but like not disgusting and toxic. Like a healthy Blair and Chuck. Who would have thought? I would say read this series purely for Rose and Connor. They're my favorite. I thought Lily and Lo were my favorite couple. No, these 2 are my favorites. I'm obsessed with them, and I'm not gonna say anything else, but this book was 5 out of 5 stars. Probably my favorite in the whole series so far, especially because it really went in depth with Connor's sexuality, and we kind of knew that Connor was queer like in the beginning of the series, but this one went more in depth with it, which was just like, I was very grateful for that, and like hearing more about that, I was like, yes, fantastic. I just really love this book and these 2 characters, and it's just fantastic. Okay, and finally we're moving on to the 5 booktok books that I read for a reading vlog. That video like literally just came out, so again I won't go into too much detail with these, but we'll go through them really quickly. The first one I read was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This was really a really pleasant surprise for me. This was 4 out of 5 stars. I read it so quickly. It is such a fast and engaging read. I think this is the only YA that I have in this pile, and I don't know, I want to read the rest of the series. Like, this was so exciting, so well done. The mystery, I had so much fun like putting together the mystery with the main characters, and I didn't see it coming. I didn't see anything at the end of this book coming, and I'm just so excited to read the rest of the series, and I highly recommend this. Then I read My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otisa Moshfegh. This was a really disappointing read. It was 2 out of 5 stars. I thought I would really enjoy this, but I just found it really boring. I feel like at the end of the day, it's just about a white, good-looking, rich woman sleeping her life away. And like, yeah, that idea is like funny, and like I get that it's supposed to be satire, and if you read it through a lens of just like making fun of it, like sure, which is what someone at work said to me. They said that like you're supposed to read it and like not take it seriously, and I feel like I did that, but like it's just not that exciting of a plot, therefore not that exciting of a book. And I feel like, yeah, it was very stream of consciousness and like unreliable narrator, like we were in our character's head, but I feel like she was still even had like her guard up with the readers, even though we're like inside her own head, and it was just like, this is exhausting, girly. Like, I'm sorry. Anyway, 2 out of 5 stars. Maybe I just didn't get it, and I would hold my hand up and be like, yeah, maybe I didn't get it, maybe I'm not smart enough for it, but that's fine. That doesn't mean I have to enjoy it. Anyways, then I read The Atlas 6 by Libby Blake. This was even more disappointing. This was another 2 out of 5 star read. The best way I can describe this book is that it's very photogenic. This is what I said in my vlog as well. I feel like it's very photogenic. Like, you can take a photo of one of the quotes in here, anything, flip open any page, and you can take a photo of the words in here, and you'll probably go viral on Pinterest because the words that are strung together are very, very pretty. But that's all it is. The magic system, confusing. Like, really confusing, really silly. The characters were not fleshed out, and it just wasn't very good. Then I read The Silent Patient by Alex McCallides. This was 4 out of 5 stars. It was really good. It was a really slow burn at the beginning, and then when we got into the plot twist, I was like, oh my god, those last 50 pages really took me by surprise, and I was on the edge of my seat. I really, really enjoyed this. I thought it was fantastic, and I don't know, I think Alex McCallides, I am now going to buy everything that this man writes. The imagery and motifs that he puts into his thrillers are just really exciting, and I cannot wait to decipher them a bit more. I feel like when I read this, I was just reading it as a thriller. I didn't want to like analyze it too much, but I had so much fun, and I want to do so much more reading on this. Like I want to read more reviews, and I want to read like people's theories. I just really like this. It was a really good, really well thought out, really well written thriller. And then finally, I'm so gutted that I have to end the video with this, but Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. I rated this 1 star. I talked about it way too much in my TikTok reading vlog, so I recommend if you do want to hear my thoughts on it, go watch that vlog. I don't really want to talk about them again here, but basically I just rated it 1 star because I feel like the romance was really, really toxic. It was boring. The characters weren't very fleshed out. It was a really uneven like dynamic between the 2 main characters, and it just wasn't good. And then people talk about the plot twist and it's like, ew, like I didn't like it. I will say one thing, if you haven't read this but you're like, no, I really want to, but this is a huge trigger for me. This is a huge trigger for me, and I really can't handle books like this. This isn't why I disliked it, but I just wanted to mention it because I know like how tough it is for me, and I know there might be some other people out there. If you can't handle bad things happening to infants, like happening to babies, don't read this book. Like, it's just disturbing. It's just gross. It's a huge trigger for me when like babies are in danger. So whenever I'm reading like a thriller or something and there's like a baby at the beginning, I'm like, I'm not reading this, because I just can't handle, like, you know when people are like, does the dog die? For me, it's like, does the baby get harmed? Is the baby ever at risk? That's a huge thing for me. So if you can't handle like babies being in danger, don't read this book. But also, even on top of that, just don't read this book. And that's all I'm gonna say. So those are the 17 books that I read in September. Thank you so much for watching this video. I know that it's been quite like rapid fire, but there's a lot of books in here, and also I am really sick. I have a cold. So yeah, let me know if you've read any of these books down below. I love having discussions about books. Like if you've got differing opinions from me, please let me know, because I want to like hear other opinions and everything. Please let me know in the comments below. Again guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you all so much, and I will see you very, very soon in another video.